Hello, and welcome back to the Bix Beiderbecke Museum. In today's video, we follow Bix as he joins the king of jazz, Paul Whiteman. With Whiteman, there was little Bix wouldn't be involved in: tour dates, recordings, advertising gigs, and even regular radio broadcasts. But success would come with its price. On October 27, 1927, Bix and Tram joined up with the Whiteman Orchestra in Indianapolis, Indiana, while the orchestra was in the middle of a tour. For the next 2 months, until the tour ended in Philadelphia, they got their first taste of the demanding Whiteman schedule. In December, Bix would send home a newspaper clipping from the Cleveland Press, featuring cartoons of both Tram and himself. The article that came with them called the pair, as the newest members of the orchestra, leading exponents in the field of ultra-modern dance music. Bix left a pair of messages on the clipping for his family. The first was to ask if they liked the mustache he now sported. In the second, he remarked that, "They sketched me good-looking and Tram hideous." Back to steady work with a steady band, Bix was where he felt he belonged. Within 2 years, Bix would crisscross the United States on a number of tours and record more albums with the Whiteman Orchestra than he ever had before. He would even play in some of the most prestigious concert halls in the country, such as Carnegie Hall in New York. In addition to the recordings that Bix did with the Whiteman Orchestra, some of the steadiest work was a reoccurring radio broadcast, the Old Gold, Paul Whiteman Special, which aired on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. His parents back home in Davenport faithfully followed the weekly broadcasts. His mother, Agatha, would tell a local paper that, "We can always tell when Bix's horn comes in." At the start of this section, we have a Philco radio, one of the most popular radio manufacturers in the U.S. by the 1930s. Radios in the 1920s and 1930s would be to American families what TV was to their counterparts after World War II. It was a window on the world for those listening at home. The Old Gold referred to in the title of the program were Old Gold cigarettes, and the company that made them, Lorillard Tobacco, had the band photographed in their full concert regalia as part of their promotional advertising. It wasn't the only advertisement that Whiteman had the orchestra involved in. When Holton, a brass instrument manufacturer, outfitted the entire brass section with new instruments, Bix, alongside the trumpet section, appeared in an advertisement for them as well. In between tours, Bix would be home in New York City. During one such break, he ran into Jimmy McPartlin, the cornet player that had replaced Bix in the Wolverines. The two struck up a friendship, and when he heard that McPartlin was in the market for a new cornet, suggested the Bach that he had purchased during his time with Goldcat. Seeing that it was a good fit for McPartlin, Bix walked the other man over to the store and helped him out by putting up the down payment on a new horn of the same model. Jimmy McPartlin would play that cornet for much of the rest of his career, and the bell that remains from it is on display in this case in our museum. Truly, Bix was doing well for himself during this time, with generous pay and a band leader that, by all accounts, cared deeply about his band. But despite all this, Bix would find that with the commitments that came with an orchestra of Whiteman's caliber, his life was no longer his own to decide. The Whiteman Orchestra was America's most popular musical attraction, and that crisscrossing of the United States came with a grueling traveling schedule. Most of it was done by train, though Whiteman did at one point have the band traveling by newly available airways. No matter how they traveled, it would end up being days to weeks of non-stop moving. Early mornings would turn into day-long train rides that culminated in a show at their destination. They would stay the night and be on their way again in the morning. Rinse and repeat for every show in the tour. Bix's success was quickly haunted by difficulties. He suffered from anxiety, exhaustion, and depression, and he sought comfort in drinking even as his longtime friends, Tram, Bill Challis, Bill Rank, Steve Brown, attempted to help him. They tried to encourage him and to care for him, but Bix became more sullen and more distant despite their attempts. He became particularly restless when one long trip to California stalled and turned into an idle 8-week stay in Los Angeles. The movie they had traveled to play for was called off without a single note recorded. The endless travel was another reason to seek comfort in drinking. The anxiety, depression, exhaustion, and comfort drinking would catch up to Bix while on tour in Cincinnati on November 30th, 1928, after just a year with the Whiteman Orchestra. At 25 years old, he collapsed in a physical and mental breakdown. Over the next year, Bix would find himself alternating his work with the orchestra with periods of attempted recovery, only to begin suffering from bouts of pneumonia as well. Please join us as we follow Bix through his final years. There is still some jazz history left to be made.